Hi everyone. I wanted to do a quick video today about a topic that we're going to talk about, I think, in a couple of um, follow-up videos and resources as well. But the issue is if you are a student who is learning programming or coding, and you're following tutorials or you're following a class where an instructor enters code and you follow along and type the code as they type theirs, then this is a question that you've probably had. The question is, well, it's all good and well that you, as the instructor, knew what to type and where and whatnot, but if I, as the learner, need to make my own game or wanted to do this project on my own, how would I know what to type? All right. And this came up because I just finished teaching an 8-week course, and it was 8 days, less than an hour each day. And we did a basic game in this platform called Micro Studio. And I'm going to share, this is the game, and I'm going to share the link with you. You can find it in the description of the video. So I'm going to use this game as an example. Of how you can start to address this problem. All right. Now, I'm just going to go through it really quickly. When you look at the link, you'll be able to see on the right-hand side of the screen is the code that I wrote. We're not going to be going into too much detail about that because this isn't really like a coding lesson per se. And then on the left-hand side of the screen, you can read a brief description of the game. So it's a very simple, bare bones game, very bare bones graphics, not fancy at all, because this was for beginner students in a short time frame. All right. And the basic idea is that you have a bucket or a paddle at the bottom of the screen that you can move with the arrow keys left to right, and you're trying to catch objects that are falling off the top of the screen. All right. Possible winning conditions, which we didn't get a chance to implement before the class ended. You could possibly win if you catch a certain number of the items, like maybe if you catch five of them, then you win. Or you could do like you go a certain amount of time. Let's say maybe if you go 30 seconds without missing, then you win. All right. And the losing conditions are that you lose if you miss more than five of the falling objects, meaning that they fall to the bottom of the screen without you catching them. All right. And just if you're looking at this screen, just click on the run button. All right. And you'll see a simple screen tells you to press enter to start. Then you got the little paddle at the bottom. You got the falling graphics from the top. Each time you catch one, you get a point, and the object starts falling faster, right? Then you have the number of misses, right? If you miss five of them, then it will take you to an end screen, like a game over screen, okay? Um, so really simple, right? So let's use that as the framework for our discussion here. So when we're talking about what you need to do next, like how do I know as a coder, um, when I'm sitting down to a blank screen with no code written yet, how do I know what to type and when and where to type it? All right. Um, because it's harder for it may I might make it look easier because I know what my plan is, right? So a lot of times that's the problem with the tutorials and the guided courses is that it kind of hides the work that goes into actually figuring out, well, what am I trying to accomplish as a coder, right? You don't see that. You only see someone has figured out what we're making and they figured out here are the steps and then they're telling you the steps, right? So when we're talking about, okay, what are you trying to accomplish? How do I know what to do? That what to do part, there's two lenses that we can look at it. There's the design lens, and then there's um, the implementation. So design is if I'm the player or the user of the program, what am I trying to accomplish and how do I accomplish it, right? So like here, we were trying to catch objects that were falling on the screen, right? How do I do that? I move the paddle back and forth with the left and right keys. In a more fancy, in a fancier version of this game, there might be something like I can get power-ups that make my paddle longer, or that make me move faster, or that make the objects fall slower. So that would be an additional details about how you could accomplish the goal, right? Um, and then we talked about the losing conditions and the winning conditions. So I'm trying not to lose. And if this was a complete game, we would know what you need to do to win, right? So that's the design perspective. So what is the user trying to do from their perspective? What is the player trying to do and how? All right. Then there's the implementation perspective of it, which is now that I know I've designed the game and I know what the player or the user is trying to do, how do I, as a programmer, um, set the game up so that the user is presented with that experience, right? And then that part is where you go into the code of, okay, well, how do I let the user move the panel, right? You check to see if they're pressing the left key or the right key. And then if they are, then you move the pedal in the proper direction. And you change the variables for the position on the screen, right? Or how do I draw to the text on the screen to tell the user what to do, right? And then there's functions that tell you that tell the game what to draw on the screen and where, right? So that's the implementation part of it, the programming part of it. Um, so what we're going to talk about today is the design part of it. So before we sat down and started this class, months before the class started, I sat down and wrote a very basic, bare bones plan of what I wanted this game to do, right? And again, I reiterated that basic idea just really in a sentence. You have a paddle that's moving that you can control as the player with the left and right key, and you're trying to catch objects that are falling from the top of the screen. All right. So now I have a basic idea of what I'm supposed to be doing. Um, I also wrote out what the possible winning conditions are and the losing conditions. Great. So now we've got more perspective of here's the here's the end goal, right? Now the going back and filling out this plan really helps you to build out your roadmap from how do we start from a blank screen with no code to getting that user experience that we wanted to plan out, right? And this is where you got to get really into the details. So the next thing I did was you guys saw how there were three screens in the game, right? There was an intro screen. It said press enter to start, but in a real game, you might have more descriptive information than that. You might actually put the instructions there, you know. Um, we also, from there, we were able to go to the play screen, right, which is where the main action happened, right, where we actually moved back and forth. And then you saw that there was an ending screen, which gave us a game over message. So here's what you do. So when you're trying to figure out what you need to do, sit down and figure out what are all the screens that the player is going to see in the game, right, or that the user is going to see in your program. So when they sit down and open up your program or your game, what is the first thing they see, and what can they do on that screen? How can they interact with it? Okay. So on the introduction screen, um, you have you start out on a screen that displays the game instructions. And I actually, uh, you know, just did the press enter to start playing. But what you really want to do is maybe put like a move the arrow keys left to right. So what I'll probably do is I'll go back probably after this video and just update that code a little bit so that you actually see some better instructions. But you kind of get the idea, right? Show whatever you want to show them something on that screen, right? Um, but you did see the option to press the enter key to start playing. All right. So in this description, I've basically said what the player sees, a screen that displays the game instructions, and then I've said what actions they can take. You can also once you also see an option that to press the enter key to continue. Once you press the key, the game transitions to the main play screen. So three things. What do I see on the screen? what what can I as the player do on the screen? What actions can I take? And how can I navigate to other screens? All right. In this case, the navigation is really simple. You just press one key and you go to the play screen. So it's very linear, right? Um, if you had like a more fancy game, you might be able to go like an options screen or like a demo screen or something like that, or a continue or play or start new game. All right. Then, but you would write that down in your plan. Okay. Then we did a bit of a walkthrough for the play screen, which is obviously more detailed. This describes what the screen is. It describes what the states are. And the state is basically like where in the process am I, right? So ideally, so again, like this is my ideal for where we started. We didn't finish everything in the plan, but this was sort of my roadmap. So if I was going to do a complete version, I might start out with waiting, where it tells the player, okay, here's the player, here you're ready to start the game. Press a button to start playing, right? Um, so that they're not caught by surprise. So when we're in this state, what does it show? It shows the instructional text. It shows the bucket or the paddle in the middle of the screen, not controllable, and the number of misses left. All right, and then I would also probably put the score here too. I should do that. And then what actions can we take? We press the start button, which will take us to the play state where we're actually ready to move the bucket around and stuff to start falling off the screen. We have that waiting because they need a second to get ready and prepare themselves before stuff starts falling, right? The playing state, this is where the player can control the bucket and the items start falling from the sky. So what do we see there? Again, we see the bucket or the paddle sprite. We start seeing the items falling from the top of the screen. We see the misses that are left, right? Again, and that was where you saw that like 0 out of 5 misses, 1 out of 5 misses, and so on, right? And then again, the score. And what are the actions? Pressing the left or right arrow keys moves the bucket in the appropriate direction, right? Um, and then what else is happening? So not just actions that the player can take, but also what are other actions that the game itself is taking that the player doesn't control. So this is where items are starting to randomly spawn and fall from the top of the screen at random time intervals, right? Um, and then we have consequences for actions, right? If the bucket collides with the item is added to the score or whatever type of counter we have in the game, right? And then if the item falls to the bottom of the screen without colliding with the bucket, the miss counter increases by 1, right? And I'll also add here the item falling speed also increases with the next item. Okay. And again, please excuse my typos or spelling errors or whatever here, grammar stuff. Don't worry about that. Um, Then we have other things. If the loss count meets the limit, so if there's enough misses, then we go to the lost state, right? And then what happens? Well, we're basically telling the game that the player lost. Get ready to do the next step, and then we stop the items from falling. All right, they're not going to fall anymore because we're done. If the number of items that the player catches meets the winning condition, we do a transition. But again, we're going to a winning state, and then the items still, in this case, no longer fall either because we're done. The lost state is when players have no more misses left. And then if the player is in the lost state, then we'll go to the end screen. Same thing if the player's won, we'll transition to the ending screen. All right. And then at the end screen, this is the screen that the players see when they meet either the winning or losing conditions on the play screen. You see a simple text display on the screen, either congratulating you for winning or consoling you for getting a game over. There will be also text that directs the user to press the enter key to restart the game. As of now, that is the only possible action that the player can take on this screen. Okay, so now we basically have spelled out how this game is supposed to work from a design perspective. All right, and now that you've done that, you are in a better position to say, all right, what do I do next? What code do I write next? Because if I got a blank screen and I'm starting to program my game, if I'm on the introduction screen, well, I know, okay, what needs to be on the screen? I know I need to have my welcome text and my instructions or whatever needs to happen, right? Okay, so I got that. All right, what does the player need to be able to do? Now I know that if I'm on the programming the intro screen, I need to add something that checks to see if the player has pressed the enter key, right? And if they do that, then what do? I move the player on to the next screen, right? And then the implementation part would be like exactly what is the exact code that you write to do all that, because there's different ways you could possibly do that, and depending on what language you're using, it might be different and all of that stuff. All right, so first step to being able to break away from always following tutorials or relying on a teacher to tell you what to do next and start making your own games and programs and ideas is to write a plan like this to figure out what you want to actually do and what you want the player to be able to do. If you want to practice that, if you're not comfortable doing that, sit down with a game that you like on your phone, on your computer, your PlayStation, or whatever, or go to a website that you use or a program that you use on your computer and do a screen flow exercise. Basically, write down, okay, what are all the screens that I see, in what order, and do what we talked about here. What do I see on those screens? What can I do on those screens? And how can I move to different screens from that screen? So that's just some practice, you know. Once you feel comfortable doing that and you get an idea of, okay, this is really the level of detail that's involved with coming up with these programs and these games. Once you're more comfortable with that, sit down with your own game idea and start writing this down. All right, writing out this same process for your own idea, right? And if you look back through my channel and some of the other resources, you've seen where I've started to give you some ideas about how to come up with game ideas of your own, and there's going to be more coming with that too. Okay. All right, so this is a good first step to breaking free from tutorials. This is going to be a series. We'll talk more about this. In the meantime, if you want to see more resources or get updates, I have a what is it, coffee page. So if I'll put the link in the description. If you go to that page and click on follow, you'll get notified when I do updates. And a lot of what I'll do is I'll do posts. So I'll just put posts to see to let you know that things are available. So like here, I started to put a post about how to come up with game ideas, right? Um, and I'll continue to do that. So I'm just starting to build this page out. Um, if you look in the shop, there's also like a couple of resources too. Here's a free one, 6 steps to solving a programming problem, and that kind of helps with that implementation problem of, okay, I know that I want to draw text on the screen. How do I figure out how to do that stuff? All right. Um, so I'm going to be adding more stuff here for you, and like I said, if you click on follow, you'll be notified. Or you can also follow me on YouTube. Um, so, uh, okay. Thanks. I hope this was helpful. Like I said, stick around because there's going to be more. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. Or I'll also put a link to a feedback form in the description so you can ask me questions anonymously if you want to. Okay? Thanks, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.